1 second here. Go. All right, we'll go around to Pirke Avos, ethics of our fathers, as is known. As is known again, want to walk around. Pirke Avos, ethics of our fathers, as is known. It's been a while. It's been at least a few months, but good to be back. We are still holding by chapter 2, Mishna 15. Right, and the Mishna said before in the name of Rebbe Eliezer, the Mishna said, he used to say, the honor of your fellow should be as precious as to you as your own. We spoke a lot about that. Do not be easy to anger, right? And then we start a few of these classes on repeat one day before your death. Right? We spoke a few classes on that way back. So we're going to continue. We're going to continue with that. But basically, just keep in mind, just a little bit as review. Right, keep in mind that repenting the day before your death. Right, what is the obvious? What's the question? Right, what is the obvious question? Nobody knows the day they're going to die. Right, so therefore you got to repent. You got to repent every day. Right, since you know the day you're going to die. Right, so repenting is crucial. Right, every day. Right, King Solomon says, you don't know what today's going to bring. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. Right, so if you don't know what either day, essentially, you don't know what either day is going to, what today's going to bring, what tomorrow's going to bring. Right, obviously, you got to take stock of your actions. You got to think about what you've done. How you've interacted with others. Interpersonal, things, whatever. You got to think. What have I done? Right? What have I not done? What did I want to accomplish? What didn't I want to accomplish? Right? Well, there are a lot of things that we have to think about. Then we got an obligation. We got an obligation. Think about on a daily basis, right? So therefore, therefore, we got to do what we need to do. We got to think. You got to think about what we do. Got to think about what we do on a daily basis, right? So Rabbi Lezer said, and again, I go back to previous videos, spoke quite a bit about that aspect, about not knowing what today's going to bring and tomorrow's going to bring, right? So, we definitely have to prepare, right? Definitely have to prepare every day. So here the Mishnah continues, right? It says again, repent one day before your death, right? Again, what is the person's heart more inclined to do? Person has a good inclination. Person has an evil inclination, right? You have a contradiction, seemingly, between body and soul, right? The body wants you to go after the physical. The soul wants you to go after the spiritual, right? In other words, if I go after the physical when it's forbidden, what does the person do? They denigrate the body, or they debase the body, they debase the soul. If a person does what they're supposed to do, you elevate the body, right? You sanctify the body. You elevate the soul. So the Christians would say, no, the body's evil, everything's bad, right? Someone came to die for our sins, very good, it's called pass the buck. But what would we say? Right, according to them, okay, you're stuck. You're stuck in this impure state, right? So what can we do? We can sanctify everything we do. We can sanctify food, right? We eat, the physical act, right? Totally a physical act. We can sanctify it. How do I sanctify food? I make a blessing, right? So there are physical things that we can do also going to have spiritual repercussions, right? Which we've spoken about a number of times, right? So if I make a blessing, one example, I make a blessing on a, let's say, break rights on an apple, very good. So it can have an influence on all fruit-bearing trees, right? That can be a physical. That can be a physical repercussion, right? Or spirit, that even though we don't see it, right? Even though we don't see it, a spiritual repercussion. Really, that's probably not a good example. A spiritual repercussion of something physical is the status of a mamzer, right? That's probably a better example. In other words, you have two people who get together that are forbidden to be together, and they have a child, right? They have this child. Now, this child can only marry someone of the same union, right? Only someone of that same union, or a convert, right? Because there's a blemish. There's a blemish on the soul. So if there's blemish on the soul, it's not the child's fault. Definitely not the child's fault. There are repercussions, right? Just like if a woman, God forbid, if she's pregnant with smoke crack, kid comes out deformed, not the kid's fault, right? Not the kid's fault, right? Not punishable, right? Because underage. So if it's not the kid's fault, there are repercussions, though. There are physical repercussions, for what a person does, right? No question. So if that's true, there are spiritual repercussions, right? And again, this child came into being, wasn't the kid's fault, but there's reality. There are spiritual repercussions. So I have a choice, right? Every person has a choice, right? What's their choice? Their choice is do the right thing or do the wrong thing. Regardless, they know what they're doing, they don't know what they're doing. You have a choice. We're the only people in the world, only beings, so to speak, who have free choice. Angels, they don't have free choice, right? What do you call it? Animals, they don't have free choice. They can choose to eat, not to eat, whatever, their programmed DNA, right? They don't have choice. Plants, animals, they don't have a choice. None of these things, celestial beings, don't have a choice. Mankind has the ability, because God breathed the spirit of life to man, gave us the ability to speak, the ability to reason, to make decisions. Animals make decisions based on instinct. That's it. They don't make any decisions otherwise. So, these other things, they don't have free choice. So we have free choice. So the free choice is either do the right thing or do the wrong thing. Now, there are a lot of factors involved, right? And what the punishment can be if you do the wrong thing. Okay, depends why you did it, where you're holding, a lot of different factors. Very good. Very good. But what's the bottom line here? Bottom line is that a person is inclined to what? Person is inclined to sin, right? That is what happens. Person definitely inclined to the wrong thing, not the right thing, right? So therefore, that's why we say every day. We say every day in the third paragraph of the Shema, we say you shouldn't stray after our eyes, right? Shouldn't stray after your eyes or after your heart. Shouldn't stray after either, right? The heart, the eyes see, the heart covets, right? The heart desires. So we're warned on a daily basis. Don't go after your eyes. Be careful what you see. What you see has an effect. It can have a tremendously negative effect, right? So there we say every day, twice a day, or maybe 3 times a day before you go to sleep, right? You say, don't stray after your heart. Don't go after your eyes. This applies to both men and women equally. We don't discriminate over here. Same thing, right? 100%, same thing. This is the problem. This is the problem. The reason a person's more prone to sin, you gotta say, but what are my good inclination? What about the fact I can do a lot of good things in this world? So that can offset it. Mitzvah goreres mitzvah, ver goreres ver. Person does a mitzvah, causes him to do more mitzvahs. Person transgresses, God forbid, causes him to do more transgressions. Person goes in the way they want to go. Right? In other words, what's the Gemara say? The Gemara says, if I go in the right direction, God will help me. Or if I want to go in the right direction, let's say better, God will help me. If I want to go in the wrong direction, God will not stop me. Very good. Right, very good. God will help me. Right, if I want to go in the right direction. Right, He'll help me a lot. So anyone who's come out of idolatry or wherever they came from, they had a true desire, whether they convert or not, doesn't really matter. They have a true desire to go in the right path. Very good. Very good. So God will put people in their path in order to help them. Certainly in order to help them. If a person wants fantasy, very good. So let them have fantasy. It's their choice. Person has a choice either way. So why do we say over here, again, why are we going to say a person's heart is more inclined to sin? Well, Torah says clear. Torah says clear that man's thoughts from the very beginning are what are bad. Right? So God wipes them out by the Dor Mabul, by the generation of the flood, wipes everybody out. But doesn't, the question is, doesn't God already know that? Right? God says he's got remorse. He's got remorse for creating man. What do you mean? How can he have remorse? God doesn't make mistakes. Right? God doesn't make mistakes. Does he know what man's going to do? He knows what man's going to do. He knows what man has the potential to do. But at the end of the day, what happens? That's like saying God doesn't know the future. God is past, present, future. He knows the future. Right? The Rashi there asks this question. Right? Asked it, I forget who it was, asked one of the rabbis. Exactly this question. How does God not know the future? God knows the future. So if he knows the future, he can't have regret. Can't have remorse. So the rabbi answers him, do you ever have a child? Said, yeah. So what did you do when you had that child? Said, I made a big celebration. Very good. Don't you know that child eventually is going to die? Right? You know that child's going to grow up and eventually die. So how can you be happy here? You know what's going to be in the future. Very good. So what does the person say? I'll be happy. I'm supposed to be happy. I'll be sad. I'm supposed to be sad. Very good. Yeah. So the rabbi said same thing. Same thing by God. God's happy when we do the thing. And God can be sad when we do the wrong thing. Not a contradiction. Right? Not a contradiction over here. So even though God knows the thoughts of man are bad from the very beginning, they have to be taught. They have to be taught how to go in the right way. Right? They have to be taught how to do the right thing. And even if you're taught how to do the right thing, doesn't mean you do it. We got an evil inclination. Right? We have a bias over here, tremendous bias. The bias is we start off. We start off in the wrong way. Because our thoughts are bad, be trained. Person has to learn very young age. Person has to learn. Right? Children just learning how to, starting to learn Gemara. Right? At the age of 10 or 11. What's the first chapter they learn? Chapter 2 about Mitzvah. What does it talk about? Lost objects. Why do they learn about lost objects? Right? To show the world's not orderless. The world is a boss. There are laws. They're just, don't just finders keepers. Whatever, if I feel like taking it, I will. If not, not. Right? Bottom line, world is not orderless. That's why kids learn that first. Right? Learn that part of the Gemara first. To show Yesh Din Yesh Dayan, there's a judge, there's judgment. The world's not ownerless. So if we're already at a disadvantage, a big disadvantage, right? How do I take advantage here? How do I get the advantage? Do good. I already have two ants tied behind my back. We're living in, darkness within darkness. How's it possible? How in the world is it possible? Right? To want to do the right thing in this world. It's a big nice. It's a big miracle. There's no question about it. It's a big miracle. Huge miracle. Huge miracle over here. So, the fact that a person's heart is more inclined to sin, right? We say every day, you should not stray after our eyes or our hearts. Now, you say it, you got to do it. You got to put it into action. It's a lot more difficult to do. A lot more difficult to do. Yeah, we always speak about the heart-mind disconnect. The mind may know what to do, right? Even though I think that's 90%, 97% of the game, is to know what to do. The mind knows what to do, right? Let's say. The mind should know what's right, what's wrong. Should. Now, we can justify why we do certain things, okay? But right is right, wrong is wrong. No gray area here, right? We'll make it very easy. Black and white. Right is, something's right or it's wrong. Right? Very good. Now, we understand. Now, this is something, again, this is not rocket science. This is something, I'm not the only one's going to speak about it. Plenty of others speak about it. Gemara speaks about it. Commentaries speak about it. Bali Musar, right? People teach ethics, speak about it. All the Musar books speak about it. The more you go after your heart, the more you go after your eyes, it's a problem, right? It's a serious problem. So the reason a person is more prone to sin, why are they more prone to sin? You're going to say it's part of our DNA. Our hearts are bad even from the beginning. Very good. So we got to work hard to suppress all these terrible things, right? Through mitzvahs. The more mitzvahs we do, the more in the right direction we're going, right? The more transgressions we do, just the opposite. So you got this going back and forth all the time. All the time we have this, right? Up and down. Sometimes we do the right things, do the wrong things, and we're in between. We repent, we feel bad, this, that, right? It's a lifetime of work. It's a lifetime of work, right? So why is it, right? Let's really get to the bottom line here, right? Why is it that we shouldn't stray? That's so hard, right? Why is it that the heart's more inclined to sin? Why isn't the heart more inclined to do acts of loving kindness? Give more charity, help others, right? Why? Because what do we have here? What do we have over here? The heart's more inclined to sin. Now, sin can be fun. Sin can be enjoyable. It can be something of what we're going to call instant gratification. An enjoyment of doing that action. You think sin's just about eating bread? And eating things that are like totally healthy. You'll ask when bad things happen to good people, right? Sin is not something where I'm not saying all sins, but some or many, when they do it, it's enjoyable. 100% enjoyable. Wasting time watching things you shouldn't watch. Doing things you shouldn't do. Yeah. So you can say that's enjoyable. And then, hours go by, days go by. How much time a person wastes. You want to say, you want to say that, oh, it's a terrible thing, right? It's a totally terrible thing, right? And, no one's going to get enjoyability of it. What do you mean? Right? Why should that be? Right? Why should that be? Shouldn't be at all. And what's the reason? Right? What's the reason? Very simple. Because I'm enjoying something and I'm getting benefit. Getting benefit. Right? I'm getting benefit right now. We'll make this very graphic. We'll speak about good old Uncle Asaph, right? Good old Uncle Asaph. What does he do? He comes in from, killing, doing all kinds of transgressions, claims he's about to die. So he tells Yaakov, give me some of that red stuff. And this is when Abraham died. So lentils around, talking about the life cycles around, you eat things that are round. Right? When a person dies, you get an obligation to mourn. He's like, give me some of that red stuff. It's like, I'm starving, I'm going to die. So what does Yaakov Avinu say? Sell your birthright. Sell my birthright. I'm starving, I'm going to die. Sell it. What does he do? He makes him sell it. And he sells it. And then Esav despises his birthright. Now, didn't good old Uncle Esav have a connection to his grandfather? Abraham had a connection. Didn't Esav have a strong connection to his father? Had a strong connection. Yeah, saw angels in his house. Right? Before they were bar mitzvah, they were the same. You couldn't tell the difference between Esav and Yaakov. Couldn't tell the difference. The Chidah, one of the great rabbis more than 400 or 500 years ago, right, said that Esav was 1,000 times greater than Yaakov. Spiritual terms. Very hard to understand. Right? But he had at least the same capacity, same brain capacity, if not better than Yaakov. So how did Yaakov end up who he was? Jewish people come through him. And why did Esav? What happened to him? Right? How is he able to sell his birthright? You don't understand about Olam Haba. You don't understand about the next world. He doesn't want to have any portion of the world to come. He doesn't understand what spirituality is. He understands. He understands full well what it's all about. Yeah. He's educated in that way. I told the question, what happened to him? Why he ended up going off in different things? Very good. Yeah, that's a good question. I spoke about this last week, right? So, well, what's the point? Instant gratification killed him. That's why his body, the Medrash says the body is in the cave of the patriarchs. Sorry, his head is in the cave of the patriarchs, not his body. Why his head? Because his head knew what to do. His head knew what the right thing to do was. His body, not that way. His body wanted to do what it wanted to do. Right? Very simple. Right? So now, if you're talking about someone of Asa, you're talking about, someone that great. Okay. Look where he came from. Look how he grew up. Right? Look who his father was. Look who his grandfather was. Forget about the rest of the generation. Because the majority of education comes in the house. Comes in the house. The fact that it comes in the house, even though we send our kids for the majority of the day, and if anything happens to them, in the wrong way, they go in the wrong direction, the parents get blamed. Because the majority of education is in the house. You can tell me, there's a lot of bad influence out in the street, right? They can mix in with the wrong kids, right? But who essentially gets blamed? Parents get blamed. Now you can say, in a lot of houses, even the best family, best Torah education that they gave their kids. When the kids go off, not all of them. Let's say you got one. Let's say you got one that goes off, okay? You got one that goes off. So you can say there are a lot of different reasons why, potentially. You can have a learning disability, bad influence, outside influence, parents don't have shown bias, right? Parents, fight a lot. Can also cause a lot of problems. A lot of issues. A lot of potential problems. But at the end of the day, where's the blame? Where does the blame go? It goes on the parents. Right? In the best of parents. They can hang out with their kids. They listen to what they say. They give feedback. They do what they're supposed to do. They do what they're supposed to do. What happens? It's still not a guarantee. It's still not a guarantee that the kids are going to go the right direction. I just saw something earlier. That Torah is not an inheritance. Listen, you have Avram, you have Yishmael came out of him. You have Yitzhak, you have an Esav. So you see, even the great of the greats, their kids, they know in exactly the right direction of the parent. as great as they were. So you see, it can happen even by the greats. But again, who's got the obligation? Where does the obligation lie in educating kids? On the parents. We send our kids to school today, okay. But my Rebbe would say, you got to be on, you got to speak to the Rebbe, you got to speak to the teachers, you got to see, what's going on. You don't just send them, and that's it, and you hope for the best. You let them educate them. No. Education comes at home. That's where it should be. Now, can they give over bad things? Yeah. Teachers aren't perfect. They got a great responsibility. Not perfect, so to speak. And a person can get blackballed for the wrong reason, let's say, or get blamed for things that, other kids don't get blamed for or whatever. And it can cause havoc. Say your kid's not doing this, not doing that, but why do other kids get away with the same thing? Right? Maybe, they're trying to get your kid to be better. You're better than that, these kids, whatever. And then they get blamed. Right? Maybe they're the ringleader, yeah. Maybe they have greater influence. It could be a lot of things, a lot of different dynamics. Teachers not perfect. Teachers can destroy. They could absolutely destroy students, right? No question. So parenting, certainly in this generation, not easy. Any generation, certainly not easy, right? No question. Each generation has their evil inclination, right? Whatever it may be, that can cause kids to grow up and go away from Torah, right? Not an issue with the Torah. There's a yetzer hara in general. There's an evil inclination of that generation, right? Whatever it may be. The 1900s, beginning 1900s, what was the evil inclination? Socialism, communism, democracy. Most of these things took tens of thousands of Jews away from Torah mitzvah. What about the parents of keeping Torah mitzvah very strong in this and that? Again, it's the power of the street, power of what's going on around you. Right? We, as parents, people can do as much as they can. Right? They can do as much as they can, not in control of everything. Can't control everything. Right? A parent who tries to control everything for their kids is a problem. Right? You have to let the kids sometimes fall and stumble. Always be there for them. But they, sometimes you can't do anything about it. Sometimes, they just won't listen. Even in the best of families. Because, hey, it's all about the relationship and keeping the door open and what. You're right. There are a lot of, again, let's say they do everything right. Let's say they do everything right in parenting. They get everything right. Very good. They have an open relationship. They come speak to them when they have problems, different things. Very good. Is that a guarantee? I would think, a good percentage of the problems could be taken care of, if the relationship is good, right? But again, there's an evil inclination. There is an evil inclination. The evil inclination is very strong. Now, the evil inclination comes in many forms. Even the best of us. But again, what happens, as I was at the bar mitzvah today, father of the bar mitzvah boy, after he gets called up to the Torah, says, Baruch Sheptarani. Right? He says, I am now exempt. I'm exempt from the punishment of this kid. Very good. He's exempt. The kid's an adult. Yeah. 13 years old. He's now an adult. He's not liable. Right? He's not liable for transgression. He's liable. He's got obligations to be counted in a million. He's got obligations. He had obligations before. All those obligations were surrounded by chinuch. It's because of education. Kid has to be educated, right? In order to keep Torah mitzvahs. You don't just start them late. You start them late, it's going to be very hard. Very hard for them to keep Torah mitzvahs. You got to start from the beginning. If you start from the beginning, you start them late. Okay. Not a guarantee. Definitely not a guarantee. They'll keep it. Not a guarantee. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, parents play a huge role. Huge. Right? But a person will say it's not fair. Why in the world do the parents do everything they can and their kid gets badly influenced or whatever happens, not their fault. Not their fault. We're in control of what the kid sees. We're in control, of bad influence, different things. We can only control what we can control. Now we got to, we got to try to the best of our ability, right, to make sure these things don't happen. Okay, but the guarantees, no guarantee. 2 guarantees in life: death, taxes. Not necessarily in that order. Those are 2 guarantees. Yeah, but again, the parents, the majority of education. Where does it come from? It doesn't come from school. It comes from what the kid sees at home. That's where it comes from. That's where it comes. That's why the parents get blamed. Yeah, whether it's fair or not fair, it doesn't really matter. Right? Parents have the majority influence, over here. Now, even with the greatest influence of Yitzchak and Rivka, yeah, even with their power of influence, even with all the angels that come to their house, that they interact with, and the fact that they saw, the father of all nations, Abraham, and the fact that his influence and his spiritual influence, huge. Huge. So what happened? Instant gratification. Right? He's willing to give up the spiritual world for a bowl of lentils. Doesn't he understand? Right? Doesn't he understand who his father was? Who his grandfather was? Great. Yeah. The power of the street overcame that. The power of his evil inclination overcame that. It's a huge thing over here. Because if a person says, look, he grew up, in the house of Isaac. And he saw Avram. And as the Chidah says, he was greater and even greater than Yaakov. Yeah. Very hard to understand. Right? At least the face value. Very, very hard to understand. So, I would say, what's going on here? So the power of instant gratification killed him. See, when the Shari Tshuva, Rabbeinu Yonah says that when a person transgresses, whatever the transgression is, at first, it's like, oh, I can't believe I did this. How is it possible? It scares them, which it should. Right? It stops them in the tracks, so to speak. But then they do it a second time. Also, how could I have done it? Can't believe I did it. Got carried away. Got this, got that. Yeah. Third time, same thing. They did it again, maybe different form, maybe a little bit less, whatever. But they're like, what's going on here? How can it be? Look what I just did. Look at what the ramifications possibly could be. Then you try make boundaries around it. Try to make sure you don't do it. But that happens again and again. But I get this question a lot. How can I stop doing the same thing over and over again? Yeah, it's a good question. But here, what's going on? Rabbeinu Yonah, after a while, you justify what you do. You're trying to be careful of whatever it is. The rest of the generation doesn't care, right? Most of the generation could care less. So most of the generation could care less. If I'm holding better than most of the generation, very good. Even if I would say that's true, whoever it is, right? Even if it's true, we always say who are you comparing to? You comparing to Sodom? Who are you comparing to? Right? Who are you comparing to over here? Right? That's the problem. Right? That's essentially the problem. We're comparing ourselves to people who live in Sodom. Right? That's what we're comparing to. Right? That's exactly what we're comparing to. So, okay. So if a person wants to say, I'm holding better than the people of Sodom, of this generation, if you have greater potential, which we always speak about, if you have greater potential, how's that help? How's it help? You're living in a nothing generation where the most important question some people may ask is, I put ketchup or mustard or relish on my hot dog. That's where they're holding. That's where the generation's holding. Now, so a person can say, okay, I'm doing better than that. Very good. Right? Let's say I agree. Very good. What if God has greater expectations? What if God has greater expectations? But you say, I'm doing better than Sodom. What do I care you're doing better than? I don't want you to rest on your laurels. I want you to be the best you can be. I don't want you just to be a Sodom Jew. Right? Or a Sodom Noahide. You're just doing the minimal. I want you to do the best. I want you to be the best. But what's one thing we forget? What's the one thing we forget over here? Again, what was the original question or statement? The original statement was a person's heart's more inclined to sin. That's why we say in the third paragraph, don't go after of the Shema, don't go after your heart, don't go after your mind, don't go after your head, so to speak, or your eyes. Let's say better. Don't go after your eyes, don't go after your heart. Very good. But what's the issue here? The issue is instant gratification. Justification. Right? A person can't say, well, I'll do this and I'll repent. Can't do that. No repentance. Can't repent for such a thing. If you did it already, whatever, okay. So then it's repentance. But to do it on purpose, and then say you're going to repent, can't do that. Right? That's forbidden. That's explicit. That the Mishna in Yuma says, the end of Tractate Yuma says explicitly you can't do that. Right? For sure you can't do that. But isn't instant gratification fun? Isn't everybody going to say it's fun? Sure. Is that 5 minutes, 10 minutes, hour of enjoyment, 2 hours, whatever it is? Of course it's fun. Anyone can say instant gratification is not fun? Whatever it may be. Who's going to say it's not fun? You're going to have to pay a price for it. So heard someone say, I'll worry about it later. Yeah? I'll worry about it later. You don't repent. Later is going to come much sooner than you think. Or even if it doesn't, there'll be a huge payback. Right? There'll be huge payback. So how can a person forget? This is a basic thing. Right? It's not rocket science. This is a basic thing. Here you see by Esav, he's willing to give up the next world for the sake of a bowl of lentils. Are we any different? We'll do it for a football game. We'll do it for a sporting event. We'll do it for entertainment. We'll do it, you name the prohibition. You name whatever it is. It's going to give the person instant gratification. Doesn't matter, nobody sees you or not. Who cares? God sees you. Now, how is that possible? Do we always think about what we do? We just do. We act. We react. Right? The Chovos HaLevavos says in Sharpi Tachum, right, in the gate of belief and faith in God. What does he say? He said nothing happens for no reason. Certainly not. You gotta think. What are the ramifications of this? What's God want from me over here? Want you to work hard? Everything is a test. See it, I see it written all the time. Everything we go through is a test. Sometimes easier, sometimes not. It's a test. Life is a test. The test. Right? So here again, it's going to be something enjoyable. We're going to make it very easy. Something that's easy to do and something that's enjoyable. Right? Something that's a lot of fun. Very good. So if it's a lot of fun, it's going to be harder not to do it. Make sense? Not only that, says Rabbeinu Yonah in Gate to Repentance and Shari Tshuva, the more you do it, says at the very beginning, the more you do it, now you think it's mutter, now you think it's permissible, now you think it's like a mitzvah. Very good. You think it's a mitzvah. Okay. Yeah, you justify why it is. What happened before? What happened before? At the very beginning, person got scared, this, that. It affected them. And then they cooled off. Then they seriously cooled off over a short amount of time. Now they're saying, come on, it's just a stringency. Not even everybody does it. You don't have to worry about it. Very easy to look at life that way. Because at the end of the day, God's not going to judge a person and say, why weren't you like this great person? Unless you had that potential. Yeah, he's going to say you had potential X, whatever it is. Yeah, God's going to say, why didn't you reach that potential? What do you mean? I didn't have that potential. God's going to play your second movie. First movie is what you did in this world. Second movie, right, that everyone has an out-of-body experience says. They see the light flash before their eyes, right? Very quickly, their light flash before their eyes. Okay. What do they see? Second movie, what their potential was. What they went through, why they had to go through, what they should have done. That's what Gehenna, part of Gehenna is like. Embarrassment. Embarrassment of what you did. You can't say my hand wasn't in the cookie jar. It was. You got caught. Very good. Now, you might try and justify it and say, wow, this is the reason, this, that. God can say yay or nay. You can't say you didn't do it, just like we're recording now. Same thing. Everything's being recorded. Right? Well, what's the excuse over here some people will make? That's someone wants, look at all the books I have, and the person says, no one can learn all this. No one can know all this. I was like, well, there are people that, know all of it. I'm not going to say the majority. There are people that know this like the back of their hands. But what are they saying? So why are you wasting your time? Don't waste the time. Not everyone can learn this. Imagine. Person walked into a doctor's office. Yeah, they walk in the doctor's office. They see a whole number of bookcases. All these books. Yeah. Did they ever say that? Doctor, you can't know all this? Never. A lawyer? Never. And then they see hundreds of books on their shelves. Right? They have a meeting, whatever the meeting's about. They see all these books. They're going to say, no, you can't know all this. You can never know all this. Big difference. Why? Because those things a person respects. Those things they respect. Those they don't respect. So they want to belittle it now. Now they're going to say, come on. No one can know all this. What's the point of studying it? The same thing about medicine. Yeah. Or someone becoming a lawyer. Or any other field. There's a lot of information you got to digest. Tons of information. Yeah. Possible for anyone to know all of it. But again, what does that show? It shows you disrespect Torah. That's what it shows. Right? There's a lot of information. There are thousands of pages Talmud to learn and commentaries to learn. Yeah. Tons to learn. The person's going to know everything like the back of their hand? Some people will. because they're able to. The vast majority, they're not going to remember everything. You got to review the different levels of learning. Okay, that's not the point. The point is when someone makes a statement, that's what they mean. That's exactly what they mean. They disrespect it. When they disrespect it, they wouldn't do it about anything else. You ever hear someone come out against a doctor or a lawyer saying they have too many books, there's no way they can know it? Yeah, that's when they make a wrong diagnosis. Then they said you didn't learn what you're supposed to do right. Could be. Or a lawyer gets caught for malpractice or whatever. They'll say, what did all these books help? Yeah, good question, because they messed them up. Good. Yeah, that's the only time. They're not going to say otherwise. What's the major difference? Because they respect them. They respect their knowledge. They respect the years of toil. Yeah, going to law school, going through medical school. Yeah, it's a lot of years to learn. Good. Not going to take that away. It's a lot of information to go through. Very good. And learning, and learning Talmud and all that. That's not a lot of material to go through. A lot of material to go through. A lot more difficult material to go through for a lot of reasons. Yeah. Very good. But that they don't respect. Again, what's the answer? There's a bunch of questions here. But what's the idea? As if the person's heart's more inclined to sin, right? It's going to be easy to get instant gratification. Yeah, and enjoyment, that makes life harder. Right? That's why a person's more prone to sin. Because if this instant gratification and enjoyment wasn't fun, at different levels, whatever it may be, then it wouldn't matter. Why would it matter? Wouldn't matter at all. Doing the action itself would be irrelevant. Right? No one's going to do something they don't enjoy. In general, not going to happen. Right? It's totally not going to happen. Right? No question. People don't live their life that way. The problem is, once you have a bad habit, or you get caught up in doing certain things, it attaches to your soul. Makes it that much harder to fight. So you're going to tell me, wait a minute, part of my DNA, very good. Now it's part of my DNA. You did it to yourself. You make it a lot more difficult. You make it a lot more difficult to fight. Good. You did it to yourself. Or you had other people help you or con you or whatever. Fine. Whatever it is. Whatever it is. Now it's much harder. You're right. I mean, it's impossible. Right? Doesn't mean it's, impossible. But a person forgets, okay, do this one thing, they get caught up in it, whatever. You know what they say, curiosity killed the cat. They get involved in something, they know they probably shouldn't. I say, just try it once. How many people out there got addicted to cigarettes just by trying it? Probably a lot. Yeah. Maybe they thought it was cool to do, maybe other things, whatever. But there are plenty of people out there, and this is addicting because they put nicotine in. That's why the tobacco companies got sued up the gazoo years ago, right? Totally addicting. Very good. They tried it. They got enjoyment out of it. They got addicted. Yeah, plenty of other things like that also. Or a person can get convinced of things. Because that's the power. That's the power of society. That's the power of social media. Right? A lot of these negative things have negative effects. Make us think the way we shouldn't. Right? You got in the secular world. You got even from a very young age. Trying to convince kids that they're not of the same sex they were born into. It's insane. That is insane. Doesn't make logical sense. I'll say, no. That's education. You're brainwashing people. We're not. Come on. Like a 6, 7-year-old. They'll say we give them freedom to think. You don't give freedom to think. Yeah, because we have to educate them in a certain way. If we want our kids to come out the right way, hopefully, they're going to be educated the right way. And even then, it's not a guarantee. We're not claiming to be open-minded. See, they're claiming to be as open-minded till the brains fall on the floor. That's insanity. They're trying to convince the whole society. But again, call them on it. That's not brainwashing. That's giving them an opportunity. That's giving them a golden opportunity. Yeah? Golden opportunity to flush themselves spiritually right down the toilet. That's what it is, golden opportunity. How is that giving them an opportunity? The young, even two teenagers too young for this, be exposed to this. But that's what it is. Everyone is exposed to everything today. Right? The show, there are no boundaries. There are no boundaries. So how, a person growing up in that world, if they come out normal, quote unquote, according to us, they come out normal, it's a pretty big miracle. Heard a great rabbi once say, chastise him not sending his kids to university, to college. So he said, I'd do it if I knew my kids would come out as moral as they went in or more. He didn't say that. He's talking about this more than 20 years ago, 25 years ago. You're going to say that today? No question. No question you can make such a statement. So once the person gives into instant gratification, it makes it that much harder to fight. Right? That's where the heart wants to go. The heart wants to enjoy. Right? The body wants to enjoy. The soul says, what do you mean? I should be learning more. I should be working on speaking Lashon Hara. I should work on all these different things to be better. And the heart says, don't worry about that. You do that another time. Yeah? So I'm going to say, I want to do this. I want to watch this. I want to see this. Just a short amount of time. It won't be, okay, you weren't going to learn anyway. Very good. So even if you weren't going to learn, right, let's say a person wasn't going to learn. So that gives you the right to do that. So the evil inclination comes along and says, come on, it's only a few minutes. It's only this one clip. It's only this one thing. And then all of a sudden, 20 minutes went by. An hour went by. The evil inclination sitting there laughing. The evil inclination having a great time over here. Right? The evil inclination says, I'm going to convince them only a minute. Only one clip. Only one thing. Very good. I'll convince you of one thing. Yeah, but the evil inclination knows if it convinces them of one thing, it's going to convince them of 10 things. Just open up Pandora's box. You watch this, something else pops up. This pops up. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. Very good. It's over. It's over. And then a person realizes, look at how much time they waste. But again, we could lull ourselves to sleep and say, okay, I gave it. Shouldn't have done it. This, that. Right. Gonna work harder. Once it's part of you, as we always say, it's very hard. But that instant gratification is not like, it's like pulling teeth. It's like getting a root canal. No, the instant gratification is like having, a hot fudge sundae with all the toppings. And enjoying that way. Instant gratification is fun. All these things are fun. Very good. So if it's fun, what's so bad? Right? So we see by Esav. He did things maybe not so fun. Yeah. But the evil inclination killed him. That's why his head, we have a tradition, that his head is in the cave of the patriarchs. Not his body. Because his head knew what to do. But since the heart overcame the head, the body overcame the soul, even with the great family he was born into, killed him. Literally. Because he's thinking, well, okay, I'm going to die. He feels like he's going to die. Right? An exaggeration here, but okay, he feels like he's going to die. What? You're not going to give me, some of this portion? So Yaakov says, sell me your birthright. He's like, my catcher. What's the difference? Sell me your birthright. Sell me your birthright. It's like, yeah. So what is he convinced? Yaakov's convincing him. He's telling him, all the time you have to learn. All the time you have to be careful what you say. All the time you have to be careful what you see. All these different things. What is the spiritual world worth to you? It's too hard for you. So just give it to me. I'm already used to it. Give it to me. Esau's not a dummy over here. Yaakov did a good job convincing him. How hard spirituality is. Every second you got to be careful what you say, what you think. All these things. Very good. Say some things. Yeah, you're right. I don't need this life. This life is really hard. This spiritual life is really hard. True. Yaakov, you make a good point. Okay, I'll sell it. Wasn't just what we see, what our eyes see over here. Oh, he was starving, right? He understood. He understood very well what Olam Haba is, what spirituality is. But at this point, Yaakov knew he had him. Why? Because at this point, he's so far gone in desire, in time, desire. There's no turning back. Now, could he have repented, become as great or better than Yaakov? Yes. Sometimes the person gets to the point of no return, right? God can still have mercy on a person like that and even help them if they want to be helped. Sometimes a person falls into an abyss. They get depressed and now things happen, they just give up. That doesn't mean they can't come back. But once a person has fallen so far, right? You know what the answer would be. So there's only room to grow. There's only room to go up. If you ever hit rock bottom. I remember, someone told me that when, I had my downfall. Yeah. Now, they were well-meaning. I know what they meant. Very hard to hear, but I know what they meant. They listen, you're at the bottom right now on your knees. Very good. So the only place is you can go up. Yeah. I didn't like that at the beginning. That was like kind of hard to hear. Yeah, it's like taking a gun and shooting you in the head when you're on the ground. But okay. I know what they meant. Yeah, I can look back and, I have no compulsion about what the person said. I know what they meant. Yeah, years later, I'm able to hear that, and that's all right. Right? But when you're going through it, and you're on the bottom, you don't think you can go anywhere. You don't think there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You can just give up hope, which some people do. You can give up hope, lose hope. Very easy. You can lose faith in humanity. No question. Imagine a person's down. They got family, quote unquote family around them. They're all, no empathy. No empathy. Right? I know someone like this that, they, bad investment, lost everything. And the family nowhere to be seen. Forget about helping them financially, this, that. We're not talking about that. No empathy. I have no empathy. Yeah. Person got bad business advice. Didn't know it was bad business advice. Took the bad business advice and lost the business. Yeah. They're still bitter. They're still bitter to this day. Yeah. But what happened? But what happened over here? Yeah, they got bad advice. Okay. So you hit the bottom. You hit the bottom over here. Okay, so it's one thing you fell flat in your face. You got bad advice. Okay. So where's the empathy? People can't empathize? Again, we're not talking about financial help here. Empathizing. Must be very hard for you. Feel so bad for you. Something. Some encouraging words. Try to make them feel a little bit better what happened. Trying to soften the blow a little bit. Yeah, they get flat like a pancake. I get it. But everyone around them doesn't say anything. No empathy whatsoever. That's kind of hard. Yeah. You're on the ground and like someone will look at the wow. Look at that. Look what happened. What's for dinner? What's for lunch? Do you hear what just happened? It's lost everything. Yeah. Person loses everything. Everything they have right now. No encouragement. No empathy. You don't feel for the other person. That's kind of hard. So, I can understand. I can understand a person like that be extremely angry. More than extremely angry. Because imagine this person would have nothing to do with family today. Makes sense? They were down and nobody was around. No one was around for nothing. Let's say, make it very easy. Right? Now, someone will ask. Somebody asks after this, I'll take questions. Right? Somebody asks, well, so how do you deal with it? Let's say someone had a major downfall. In a major downfall, and it comes to family, we use family as an example. Comes to family, nobody has empathy. Nobody has any empathy. And they let them just lie there. No encouraging words, no nothing. Now, is that painful? Sure. Now, you could say, well, expect nothing, whatever gets a bonus. Some people will say that. So they don't get hurt. Right? That, they won't feel the pain. Because they don't expect anything. Okay. I think it's the wrong attitude, totally wrong attitude, but okay. So what's the answer here? What's one answer? Now, I'm not a therapist, so take this with a grain of salt, but what's one answer? This person or these people, so they have any connection to Torah mitzvahs? No, right? We'll make it easy. They don't have any connection to Torah mitzvahs. Yeah. So basically, whatever they do, they're insane. They're insane. Going against what God says, they don't care. They can be, quote unquote, the nicest of people. Okay. But the bottom line is, they have the IQ of a 5-year-old. They have a 25 IQ. Now, if you look at people, some people like that, then whatever they do is not going to bother you. Right? Someone mentally challenged, slobbered over you, pushed you out of the way, or this and that. It's annoying. Yeah, maybe it's annoying. Okay. In the bigger scheme of things, it's going to bother you? No. Because this person is mentally challenged, has the IQ of a 5-year-old. They have to be educated. Can't just let them do whatever they want. Right? But what's the bottom line? Bottom line is, they have the IQ of a 5-year-old. I don't care. I don't care if they PhDs, pile higher and deeper, Papa has dough. Right? They can have MBAs, they can be very intelligent, blah, blah, blah. We see college campuses, the higher the IQ, the more they're anti-Semites. Okay. But even someone with that level of IQ, let's say, in Torah mitzvahs, what are they? They're nothing. They're zero. They're less than zero. Somebody who's less than zero, and they say things. I'm going to sit there and worry about it? I'm going to get upset? It's going to make me not sleep at night? First, has to internalize that message. Because then you won't have any problems from people. You look at them like they're insane. Heard people say, yeah, but his friends are trying to get me to do this and trying to get me to do that. They shouldn't be your friends anymore. You're going to stay in the straight and narrow path. People are going to make fun and say things and this and that. Not even a question of sticks and stones. The question, you're an idiot. You are an idiot. So if you're an idiot, why am I going to take what you say seriously? Because someone will say they're putting me down. Someone will say they're being obnoxious. Yeah, maybe. Right? But someone who's being obnoxious when they have when they have the IQ of a 5-year-old, that's what we have to do. You have to go, think, you knock it out. And these people can talk a lot. They can say insulting things. But if they're mentally challenged, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, questions here. Let's deal with them now. 1 second here. Someone says, in Joshua sense, secular subjects like physics are like idolatry. Right? Why? Because they teach it from a non-Torah perspective. Because they're teaching it from a Torah perspective, it's one thing. If in the secular world they're teaching it because this is nature and this is that, so that's idolatry. Right? It's giving something a power, it doesn't have by itself. Right? That we said. So someone asks, okay, so what about teaching history? Teaching history is not a problem. Right? If you're teaching it the right way. If history is being taught the right way, it's not, why should it be idolatry? It should be fine. Right? As long as you're teaching it, according to a Torah perspective. Teaching from a secular perspective, so to speak, here, let's say secular Israeli history, right? They're going to give all the power. Where's all the power to? Not religion. The power is not about what Jews do and mitzvahs and all that. Where's the power? In the army. And that's one of the prophecies. In the book of Deuteronomy, it says, power in my hands. Power in my hands have done this. That's idolatry. That you're taking God right out of the picture. But God says that's going to happen. That is going to happen. People are going to make that claim. Yeah. That'd be teaching history in the wrong way. Right? If you're teaching it from, history from a Torah perspective, it's one thing. If you're presenting the facts the way they should be, right? It's kind of hard not to have a bias when you're giving over facts. Right? But let's say you're just telling over the facts. Is that idolatry? No. Doesn't make it idolatry. Won't make it idolatry. But a person has to remember, that, you have to give it over the right way. You have to be able to see through what's really going on. A person can go over the wrong perspective in history. Right? So, I wouldn't say it's idolatry. Right? Problem's going to be what happens, say like this, and it's more problematic. What would happen? You have to give over a certain curriculum. That curriculum is false. You have to teach evolution. Right? Because the separation of church and state. Right? So therefore, talk about evolution. Okay, you can talk about it in science. So let's say a person teaches science. Are they allowed to teach false doctrine? That's a good question. It's their livelihood if they don't teach it that way. Right? You can't teach about God. So you got to teach about evolution. That's a problem. That is a serious problem. How would a religious Orthodox person teaching science get around that? That's a problem. That is good. That's a problem. I don't know how to get around that. Kid, you can't teach it. You can't teach it from that perspective. You have to at least, even if you're going to teach according to this is what, science claims or whatever, you have to be able to teach the other side. But you won't be able to do that. Right? In a secular school, you won't be able to do that because separation of church and state, usually. Right? You won't be able to teach religion from the religious perspective. Right? Especially, you live in an atheist country. But even if not an atheist country. Right? In a public school, I went to public school, evolution is going to be taught. There's no question. Are they going to give the biblical description of how the world came into being? No. They won't allow you to. Right? That's like blasphemy. Why is it blasphemy? Again, separation of church and state. Right? Parents are going to have to educate the kids on that. But they're not going to get that other perspective. Right? That would be an issue. If a person's teaching that, which is totally heretical, that's a problem. Right? So, in this case, if they're teaching history in the wrong way, yeah, that could be a problem. That could be the problem. Even if teaching information. They're just teaching, there was a war, this happened. So many people were killed. The other side did this, and whatever. So, teaching, just giving over information might not be a problem. Just telling what happened. Just telling the story what happened. Yeah. and the army did this, and they took over that, and, that's not idolatry. That's not idolatry. And you can't necessarily say, well, this is what God wanted and why. We don't know necessarily why, per se. But sometimes we can see. But you won't be able to give over necessarily that perspective. Even if you knew that perspective. That's that, I would say you have to be careful. If you're just giving over the facts, it's probably not a problem. It's probably not a problem. Right? But if it would be something that goes in contradiction of what the Torah says, which would be heresy, that would be a problem. Right? That's what I would say. That would be a problem. Someone here asks, okay, a person's married, so they eliminate certain temptation, okay. Right, it's going to lead to sins. On the other hand, you won't have enough money to have a family. Yeah, if you won't have enough money to get married and start a family, right? I'm going to be better in Hashem's eyes, right? Or marry Noahide and not convert. So I'll say like this, that there are people who make the claim, I think it's a true claim, there are people who make the claim, how can I have kids? I don't make enough money. The question is, how much money does a person need to make? God can make it difficult, if you have less money, even if you have 1 or 2 kids. Not only that, God can help you even if you have 7 or 8 kids. People survive. Maybe it's not pretty. Maybe people struggle. Even let's say both husband and wife are making a lot of money. Is that a reason not to get married and have kids? No. Is that a reason not to become a Jew? That's a different issue. That is a different issue. Penalized, yeah. You can have kids spread out, and it's a lot easier, and use contraception is easier, and in different ways. Yeah, in that sense, it's a little bit easier. But one thing has nothing to do with another. Right? In other words, if you want to convert, then God's going to help you. Regardless if you have a big family or a small family. Right? It's not a reason not to convert. Right? It's not a reason not to get married. How many people get married, they have any money? Right? Most people marry if the kids don't have money. People don't have money to marry them off. Yeah. They're going to have, money to help support them. So, there are people who put themselves in debt for that. I don't necessarily recommend it. A person will marry into a family that's like yours. Very good. Right? It's most likely the case. Right? But people starting out, do they have any money? Not usually. Some people want to marry someone, where the girl can do something. She's still not in school, she's finished. Right? She has some sort of career or whatever to bring in some money. Okay. Now again, they got to live a certain way. They have to be more frugal and this and that. Right? I've seen it many times. Where the kids, where they're married and, the husband is learning. They're, the wife works, and they're very frugal, but that's what they choose. Right? The parents try and help out here, help out there. I'm saying where they can. But not that they're obligated to do. Right? Now, again, is that a reason? Is that a reason not to convert and not to get married? No, it's not a reason. Conversion is a whole different thing. Right? Who says, it's a Noahide, it's going to be so much easier. Right? A Noahide also has to have kids. There's an obligation for a Noahide to have children. Now, again, can they have, 2 kids over 10 years? Yeah. It's easier in that sense. But they also have to have kids. Because if you don't have kids, you don't have a world. You don't have a next generation. So they also have to have kids to populate the world. Very good. So in that sense, it's easier. But again, one thing, to make a decision whether to convert or not, that's not a factor. That for sure should not be a factor. Right? If you want to convert, God will help you. He'll definitely help you either way. Is it going to be easy? Who says life is easy in general? But a person say, I don't make a lot of money. Okay. So who says the person you marry won't? Maybe they'll make, maybe they'll make a lot more money than you. Maybe. So you'll be able to survive. Who says? right? So I would simply say that a person's worried about that, the lack of emunah, the lack of faith and belief in God that He's in charge. God can make it easier, can make it harder, true. But who starts off life having it easy? Not very few, not very many people. Most people didn't start off, when I got married, I had all this money. Nobody starts off like that. Very few people start off like that. Right? There's a mentality, sit and learn as long as possible, right? So you got people still, in their 30s learning, wives are working, they're surviving somehow. Right? They're surviving somehow. Most people can't do that. Right? Just can't do it because, too many expenses. So eventually they get, husband's got to find a job or whatever. Right? So again, even finding a job, that guarantee everything's going to go smooth. They have to live a certain way, a budget. But who says both incomes you can't survive? Right? Unless both parents are making minimum wage and everything's so expensive, yeah, maybe. But who says that's going to be? Right? Again, you have to cut back on certain things. I know certain people that, they couldn't afford to send their kids to daycare. They couldn't afford to send the kids to daycare. Both work. One social worker, one, I don't know, one was in sales or something. Right? But they own their house. They have a mortgage. Okay. But they couldn't afford daycare. So grandparents help. Grandparents are able to help. So otherwise, we're going to do daycare so expensive. Okay. Something's got to give somewhere. They had to send the kids to daycare, both work. Both work. So something's going to have to give, but what do you do? You already have kids. Well, they're already making money before, so they put money away. Other things I can't answer, but that's not a reason. There are two issues here. One's getting married. That's one issue. And the other about conversion. Right? Getting married also. I mean, how many people start off having any money? Right? Having any money. Again, is that a reason not to have kids? He's very rare you find somebody give you permission to do that. Until things, solidify. Having a child brings in blessing also. You gotta say, but if you're already not making it, again, depends on the situation. But in most cases, the person's not going to get permissibility, use contraception because of that. Right? Just keep that in mind. But they're two separate issues. One's about marriage, one's about conversion. But again, a person, there are people that, will want to, put some money away and want to work before they get married. I think that's a mistake. I'm not saying you shouldn't try and put money away. Right? So a guy, he should be married. Try and be married. Why? A lot of problems. Definitely a lot of problems. Yeah, if they're not married, certainly for a woman, it's better for her to be married than not be married. But again, just gonna marry anyone. So it goes both ways. Right? That's what I would say. What do we do when we're prevented from reaching our potential by society where we live? The question is how that's done. Question how that's done. Right? We don't know. First, we don't know what our potential is. Nobody knows what their potential is. Second of all, the Jews were slaving in Egypt, yeah? Well, what did God do, though? What did God do? He took them out of Egypt, made them a nation. Yeah, only 20% got out. Okay, so no question why God did it that way. Well, these people didn't want to get out. That's a different issue. That's a different issue, but look at who they became. Look at the end result. You're looking at, they were slaves and they couldn't reach their potential. They almost totally assimilated out. They would have assimilated out if God didn't take them out. Yeah, take them out against their nature. Right? Against their will. Because really they were supposed to be there 410 years. God took them out 400 years. Sorry, they were there for 210. God took them out before they got obliterated spiritually. Right? Why did that? Okay, it's a good question. Yeah, but what happened afterwards? You're forgetting what happened afterwards. God took them out, changed them from slavery in order to serve Him, right? And brought them, and gave them the 10 Commandments. And they saw God face to face at Mount Sinai. Isn't that a benefit? Look at how great they became, the ones that came out. Okay, it's some bad eggs also, but look at who came out. Made themselves into a nation. Pass that down to generations later. So, so you're making a statement that's not necessarily true, right? We're prevented from reaching our society, from reaching our potential from society. A lot of things go on, right? Against our will, let's say, in society. The question is how we react. So if you don't reach your potential, what could we say? What can we say to God? You're going to say, I reach my potential. You know why? Because look what society did. Look how powerful society was. That's called pass the buck. Sorry. You're passing the buck over here. You're saying, look what society prevented. Society didn't prevent it. You prevented it. You didn't work hard enough. You had much greater potential. God didn't want you to get sucked up in society. But, the Ramchal says, aren't we here to toil? Aren't there a lot of issues we have to go through? Sure. That doesn't mean I can't reach my potential. That's very easy. That's very convenient, actually. Because we can blame God that you made it so hard, I didn't reach my potential. God said, I didn't make it so hard. You have to live in this world. You have to toil in this world. That's part of the deal. So if that's part of the deal, why are you blaming me? Right? A lot of things we're going to see in our lives going to hurt a lot of people here. Right? And that is you did to yourself, not that God did it. Right? The Ramban in the book of Job says, when the friends of Job come, tell him, oh, it's because of this you did or that you did. The Ramban says we're going to blame God for certain things that happen, or maybe a lot of things. God's going to say, I didn't do that. I didn't stop you from doing this. This is what happened. It's your own fault. That's the worst. If you do it to yourself, yeah, that's the worst. That's totally the worst. You got no one to blame. God says, I didn't have to stop you. You did it. You did it to yourself. Right? So where's the blame? On yourself. So we can blame a lot of things. We can blame society. We can blame our family. We can blame, all kinds of things. God says, you're right. This was a factor. That was a factor. I put you in a certain family. You're born against your will, you die against your will. Right? Kaufman would say, as the Mishna Pirke Avos says, Kaufman would say, but you still have to live. So life is hard. We can blame our parents for a lot of things. We blame our siblings. We can blame teachers. We can blame everybody. Is that what God wants? We're here to grow spiritually. Life is hard in many ways. Very good. So it's to teach us lessons. Okay. But to say, look at society around me and it didn't help me reach my potential, that's an excuse. That 100% is an excuse. What gives you the right to blame society? It's your own fault. How you deal with society. Right? I get a lot of things. Right? I'm sure everybody does. I'm not alone. I get a lot of things I can blame society on. A lot of things. You know what? I get sucked in, just like anyone else gets sucked in. And these things you got to fight yourself. I'm not saying where it's done against your will. Even if it's done against your will, how do I deal with it? Do I spit in God's face or not? Do I work hard, try and fix it or not? And the worst thing is if you did it to yourself. You did it to yourself, you got no one else to blame. You got no one else to blame. Right? So you can't blame society. I've seen people blame the parents for all kinds of things. Right? Blame their siblings, blame everybody, and it could be at fault. Very good. I'll make it very simple. Could be their fault. Okay. Even if it is their fault and they did this and that. So like this person who's apathetic when they lost everything. Yeah. After they die, they could complain to God and say, see, look what these people did. What these people did. Now, if I was putting on my funny George Burns glasses, my funny mustache, I was playing God, I say, you're right. I say, you're right. Your family, they were totally apathetic, didn't show any empathy. You're right. 100% what they did was wrong. I'll deal with it. Don't worry. I'll deal with it. What they did was 100% wrong. Now what? You sat there and cursed them. You sat there and spoke Lashon Hara against them. You never got over it. What they did was wrong. Even God himself says what they did was wrong. And still got to live life. Can't sit there and blame them. Right? Right? You can't sit there and blame them. Even though they're at fault. Even if they're at fault, so what? You can't blame them. You got to deal with it. And if you can't deal with it, you got to get help dealing with it. You can't pass the buck here. And a lot of people, unfortunately, live in the past. Because they live in the past, They never get over it. Right? They never get over it. And if they never get over it, right? If they never get over it, there's a problem. Now, some things are very hard to get over. Okay. I'm not going to disagree with that. You can't make it into a philosophical outlook and say because of this happened, that happened. You could, a person can wallow in self-pity. Yep, they could. Is that what God wants? No. A person can do it. And a person, again, God will judge it how he sees fit. And a person's going to be very hurt and very upset, and it could take, who knows, their whole life to get over it, maybe. Maybe. What does God say? You could have dealt with it in a different way. You could have got over this much quicker. You chose not to and have all this anger, whatever. You're not allowed to be angry. What happened isn't a good thing. Very good. It's not a good thing. Okay. And now what? Right? Can't pass the buck over. You got to take responsibility. Can't just blame society. It's very easy. Everybody has people they can blame things on. Easily. Right? I'm making this very, very easy. You can easily blame other people for things that have gone wrong in their life. But even if that's true and the person is guilty, right? Even if the person or people are guilty, how did you respond? How did you respond? Right? That's going to be the question. Right. So someone here says, okay, this beginning stuff, you got families actively trying to hurt people. Okay. Yeah, you got people out there protesting different things, and yeah, people can get hurt. So what? What does that have to do with anything? Part of Jews getting hurt and beaten up and anti-Semitism is part of them living in this world. That's the reality. That is the reality. The more you dress like an Orthodox Jew, and you walk around certain places, there are a lot of places, yeah, you're a target. Okay. That's the reality. So what? I'm sitting there gonna blame God for these anti-Semites. They're anti-Semites. I can, you can pass it by and say, I didn't deserve it. Yeah, any smack you get, you deserve. Why? Any number of reasons. Plenty of reasons. Right? Doesn't matter if people hurt you or whatever. Well, again, what does surrounding things matter? Question is, are you still gonna pray tomorrow? You're gonna get up and pray tomorrow, so these anti-Semites beat you up. So don't convert. No one says you have to convert. Right? Is life going to be easy? No. Life is not going to be easy. The question is how we deal with adversity. How we deal with these things that happen. That's the bottom line. Someone asks, do poor Jews send their children to secular schools as the Orthodox ones are very expensive? I've heard some people do that. Some people have done it. Majority don't. Vast majority, okay, figure out how they're going to pay, what they're going to pay. Right? And I've heard of cases like that. Heard of cases that they want to homeschool because something's going on and schools are bad, right? Just education-wise, right? But, there is somewhat of a movement like that as well. The vast majority, even if they don't have money, they have to send their kids to school. So they have to work out something with the school to pay. I'm not saying I've never heard of a case where someone didn't send to school, went to public school because they couldn't afford it. I've heard cases like that. Very few. But, it's definitely happened. Definitely happened. Is it permitted to help a fellow Jew by taking a loan and donating to him? You don't have to go that far. Right? A person doesn't have to put them in debt. Or to put themselves in debt. If they want to, they can't. Certainly they can. If they're able to. Right? I wouldn't tell necessarily people to do it. If they can, they're willing to take on that responsibility, then yeah. It's a big mitzvah. If someone's in financial distress, they can't necessarily help them, right? Because they don't have the money, but they could get them a loan or, somehow, get a loan for themselves and give it to them. And that can happen. When I tell people outrightly to do it, depends on the person. If it's going to come back to bite them, they're going to have regret from doing it, then no. Right, but if they genuinely want to help, can they do it? Sure. Someone here asked, one second. Can you teach secular people to believe in evolution, but it's not true because anything was created by God? You got to again. Teaching that is going to be a problem if you don't teach a God perspective. But if you're in a school where you can't teach the God perspective, then you got a problem. You would definitely have a problem. They're not going to allow you. A secular school will not allow you to teach God's perspective. If they allow you to, very good, then you don't have a problem. If they don't allow you, you have to teach evolution, let's say. And they don't allow you to teach God's perspective, how can you teach evolution? Right? What's the Torah saying? The Var Sheker Tircha. Can't lie. Can't lie. Not allowed to lie. Right? You can't give over something that's false. It's a problem. They're having a problem. If you can't teach the other perspective, how can you teach that? Someone asks, I'm looking for hair length for women. Must be longer than the shoulders. I would say shoulder length is enough. More than shoulder length is too much. Right? Even if it's beyond, let's say, person wants to keep long hair, very good, but it should be tied up. Shouldn't be all out. Right? I see plenty of girls go to school, they have these like long, they have braids, but they don't go all the way down their back. They go, braids will go probably to the shoulders, not much lower than the shoulders. Right? So a person that had long hair, yeah, you're gonna have to cut it short or put it up in a bun or something. Right? It can't be that long. Because long hair is considered, again, even a person not married, long hair is considered licentious. Right? Hair in general is licentious. It's only covered if you're married. Right? But if you're gonna have, long hair, it should be up in a bun or something. Or braided or something where it's shoulder length. Shouldn't go beyond the shoulders. Someone here says, my dad always said, stay away from the lottery. Lottery, lottery is an issue. It's gambling, right? Essentially, it's gambling. We hold that, practically speaking, playing the lottery is okay. If you're Ashkenazi, if you're Sephardic, it's more of a problematic. But Rabbi would say, even according to Sephardic tradition, that should be allowed to. But lottery is different than gambling. Right? It's not the same, it's not the same thing. Not the same thing. So lottery would be okay. Gambling would be something else. Gambling, whether in a casino or online, that would be a different issue. Right? That would be more problematic. Right? That's really forbidden. The playing the lottery, that's an issue. Right? Because the person doesn't expect to win. Right? The odds are so stacked against you that you don't expect to win. Everyone said he plays the lottery, or many years ago, he told me he plays the lottery in England because he said it's too fixed in Israel. In other words, it's too impossible to win. Right? They make it in such a way where it's like impossible to win. Right? So most other places, I'm not saying I don't know how every place works, but he told me England was better. He told me England play the lottery was better. Here in the States, probably not an issue. I mean, they don't make it impossible to win; they make it very hard, right? But he claimed that in Israel it was much harder. It was much harder. Someone asked, remember, a sister would feel compelled to do something, told to do the right thing. You thought that was your responsibility. Yeah, well, maybe she needed support. Yeah. Sometimes you know what you gotta rebuke, even if they're not going to listen. Right? Even if they're doing the wrong thing. The Gemara says up to the point where a person's going to smack you. That's how far it goes. I would say that I would say that maybe she needs support. Yeah. Listen, a person doesn't like to see someone going in the wrong direction. Something that's, you see someone, God forbid, a drug addict, right? Or doing negative things that, yeah, down the line going to cause, other problems. You can try the best of your ability to get them to stop or whatever. Or trying to support them means not giving into their habit, not helping them, right? But giving support, maybe you might have to rebuke them, right? If they're doing the wrong thing, you might have to rebuke them, right? For sure. Because the reality is, what could someone say? Someone could say, it's none of your business. Whatever I decide to do, I do. To say, well, I wasn't asking for your opinion. Doesn't mean you don't have to give it. See someone do something wrong, you should rebuke them. But again, it depends on circumstance. Just because the Torah says you rebuke them, you have to rebuke someone to do the wrong thing. Very good. At the end of the day, it says so you won't bear sin because of it, but you can't embarrass them, right? You can't do it in a way where person will say, well, we don't know how to give rebuke anyway, so you shouldn't do it, but don't bear the sin. Yeah, it's only in certain cases. It's only in certain cases. Sometimes you have to give rebuke anyway, even they're not going to listen. As parent of an 18-year-old, what is good advice? What is good advice? A hard thing to say because it's not holding by Torah mitzvahs. Tell them, they should be honest, and whatever they do, they should, let's try and stay away from promiscuity, even though certain things probably not forbidden for them. You try and give over, moral things that they should do. Yeah, but it's very hard for someone at that age without any boundaries to want to listen. I'll give one example. Yeah, try and teach them that they shouldn't curse. Why it's bad to curse. They're going to listen? Can't say. You can try, right? You can say, curse is a bad thing. You can say that, immorality, immorality is bad. These other things are bad. They can affect you in the long run. The question is, they're going to listen. They're going to listen. I can tell you, kids that age where they don't necessarily have boundaries or such strong boundaries, what's going to happen? Right? What's going to happen? They're not going to listen. Most likely, they're not going to listen. You can try, not saying not, give them over good values. I'm not saying give Mussar, hit them over the head, right? Just, if you have an open relationship, try and give them the best values you can, according to Torah. Someone asks, is it a good thing to receive blessings from other people? Yeah, you never take blessings lightly. Not even from someone doesn't know very much. That doesn't make a difference. Listen, someone gives blessings, even if it's not on a very high spiritual level, blessings don't go for nothing. They can be, they can certainly come to fruition, right? Well, that's the person of the crackpot. The person of the crackpot, then yeah, then even if they give you a blessing, big deal, right? But again, normal person, a normal person, let's say they're not very well learned or whatever, they give a blessing. Can that blessing come to fruition? Sure, why not? Gemara says you got to be careful from, a blessing or a curse from even regular people that aren't so learned or whatever, because these things come to fruition. So is it good if someone gives you a blessing even if they don't know very much? Sure, right? Could it come true? Why not? Right? I don't see why not. All right. So you're right. When it comes to righteous people, different thing. There are people that go to people. Sometimes they don't get the answer they want. Right? Their situation doesn't change. Could very well be. Right? But again, blessings don't hurt. Blessings for sure don't hurt. No matter where they come from. Again, unless the person's the crackpot. The other person's the crackpot's a different issue. Right? In other words, if they're mental shower and say it doesn't really matter. Right? Because they're out of their minds. Right? So, that's just something, it depends where the blessing comes from. But again, a normal person, even someone on a very high spiritual level, doesn't matter. That blessing can come to fruition. For sure, it can come to fruition. Right? Obviously, going to righteous people certainly helps, no question. right? So, you may not get the answer you want, and people say, I went to this great rabbi and this great rabbi, whatever. A person has to do things on their own also. Can't just rely on righteous people to, pull them out of certain things. They got to work themselves also. But, person in dire straits, they go to righteous people. Right, true. But again, even a regular, quote unquote, an average person can also get blessings. It's not something to sneeze at. That's what I'm saying. It's not something that's like, oh, this person doesn't really know that much about Torah mitzvahs, but he gave me a blessing. Yeah, so don't take it lightly. Should not take it lightly. Curse also shouldn't necessarily take it lightly. As well. As well. God forbid. Right? God forbid if someone, it depends how angry a person gets, and and all that. People say this should happen to you and that should happen to you and whatever because they're angry. Okay, yeah. Or maybe God's going to look at that and say, "Oh, look, you did this, you did that," and cause the person anguish, and yeah, it could come back to bite you. Yeah, there are certain things like that. But again, the person can say something that's going to come back to bite them because they're cursing someone out when the person didn't really do anything wrong. All right, it's also an issue. But that's a whole different topic. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, so I'm gonna stop here. I do this every Saturday. I'm gonna start doing this again. Gonna continue next week, 2:30 Eastern time, 9:30 Israel time. Anyone has any questions? Find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on the Torah portion of the week, Q&As, Ethics of Our Fathers, Book of Leviticus. Gonna have that tomorrow, 4 o'clock Israel time, 9 o'clock. New York time. Otherwise, anyone wants to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBIChaimCoffman at gmail.com, which is never good.